Kathy motherfucking Griffin. I saw the funniest thing online earlier this week. It was like a conversation between Kathy Griffin and Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods says, "Man, I don't think anybody could screw up their career worse than I did this week." And Kathy Griffin simply says, "Hold my beer." Kathy Griffin. Okay, for those of you who have been living under a rock or are not familiar with Kathy Griffin is a female comedian. She is known for her shocking comedy. She's known for saying basically the most blunt things. Kind of like Amy Schumer before she became a libtard. But Kathy Griffin kept going with it. She's raunchy. I liked her. I really do like her. I did like her. I liked her comedic chops. She was funny to me. A lot of folks thought she was annoying, but I think she's funny. And let me tell you something. About 10 years ago, CNN had the genius stroke of putting her with Anderson Cooper for New Year's Eve. And let me tell you something. That is some of the funniest shit you'll ever see. I mean, you got Anderson Cooper, who's a straight-laced reporter type, and you got Kathy Griffin, who's completely off the rails, and they come together. It sounds hacky, but it works. Well, it did. Because earlier this week, Kathy Griffin, via her Instagram, put out a picture of her holding a bloody Donald Trump mask, talking about blood coming from his wherever and blood coming from his eyes, referencing a comment he made during his campaign about 6 months ago. Maybe not even 6 months ago, maybe like, a year ago. He made that comment about a female journalist who had said something about him, and he said that she was... Actually, no. What the story is that Donald Trump was at an event, and there was a female journalist who was kind of giving him a hard time, and he was making a comment like there was blood coming out of her eyes and blood coming from wherever, like she was a complete horror show. And it made the crowd laugh, and Donald Trump has had numerous moments like that. A lot of folks are not very happy with those moments because as a president you're supposed to have decorum, but I kind of like the way he speaks out like that. There are certain leaders like Trudeau up in Canada who speak their mind, and we haven't had that really here in a long time. And Donald Trump, agree with him or not, he's trying to do exactly what he promised in his campaign, whether you liked it. So, anyway, I'm being told by someone in the chat room that Anderson Cooper isn't straight. Well, no shit. Anderson Cooper is as queer as a $3 bill. Anderson Cooper is as gay as a musical, but he's also the son of Gloria Vanderbilt, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And also the same commenter said that Kathy Griffin is very ugly. Yeah, not exactly my cup of tea. I'm not one to say who's ugly and who's not ugly. I can appreciate certain things, but yeah, not exactly my cup of tea, Kathy Griffin. So, based on what Donald Trump said about a year ago, Kathy Griffin decides to have a photo shoot with this gentleman. I forget his name. But he took this picture and she posted it on Instagram. No big deal. And, wow. Just got some news from the chat room. That's why I don't look at the chat room. Well, our hearts go out to Debbie Daly. She lost a friend to breast cancer. Myself, I give you my sincere condolences. I'm sorry that it's a tragedy. It is a tragedy, but sorry for your loss. Hope everything turns out as well as can be, and hope those two twin girls that you mentioned are well taken care of in this time of their loss. But in any case, so Kathy Griffin takes this picture and then gets all sorts of backlash. And then her apology on Instagram, where she decides to go without makeup, which was a terrible decision, because anything that made her look cute or spunky or anything like that was her makeup. She basically looks like she's dying. She goes on Instagram and says, if I knew people would be so upset about this, I would have never done it. Well, isn't that the first sign that you're not sorry? Criminals say that. Well, if I knew I was going to get caught, I never would have done it. You're not sorry. Stop it with the crap, Kathy Griffin. You are not sorry for that picture. You thought you were being a nasty woman, as Naomi Judd once said. You thought you were being a nasty woman by doing that. And that is what you did. So back it up. Back it up, Kathy Griffin. Back it up and just admit it. You wanted to do something. You wanted to do something that was powerful. You wanted to do something that meant something. You wanted to draw attention to yourself because that's who you are, Kathy Griffin. You wanted to draw attention to yourself. You are a comedian. That's what you do. You're a comedian and you make jokes. You make sick jokes. You make inappropriate jokes to garner attention. That is what you do, Kathy Griffin. So, don't say you're sorry. Just say, hey, this is unfortunate. It became this. Okay, fine. But don't say you're sorry. You don't even fucking mean it, Kathy Griffin. Anyway. She goes with that bullshit apology on Instagram and says, oh, I'm sorry I got caught. I'm sorry people were mad. Sorry not sorry, hashtag. Hashtag sorry not sorry. Whatever. Donald Trump and his family goes on Twitter. Now this is ridiculous as well. Back to the decorum of a president. The way you handle this shit as a president, in my humble opinion, is that you do not tweet out that it was sick. You don't do things like that. Instead, what you do is you ignore the bitch because she wants your attention. This woman wants your attention, Donald Trump, and you just gave into it. You gave her all the attention she wanted. And of course, everybody goes to Twitter to put out their statements about how disgusting this was. Everybody goes to Twitter and puts out their thoughts, Anderson Cooper included, about how deplorable this photo shoot was and how deplorable the release was and how poor the taste was that it was done in. Okay, sure. All right. God, everybody just puts things out on Twitter these days. Like your prayers for Manchester are going to do anything. Like your thoughts and prayers are going to do anything. Are you really thinking and praying at that time? Or are you just typing something out so that your friends can say how wonderful of a human being you are? Think about that next time you put that out. Anyway, so, Kathy Griffin. Yesterday she goes to do a press conference. Excuse me. The obligatory press conference. She has her lawyer there. Her typical feminist lawyer. You know the ones I'm talking about. Those typical people who are basically at every, they're ambulance chasers. They're ambulance chasers on a higher level. They go wherever the trouble is, and they get their clients. Or they already have clients that are high profile, and they know that they're loose cannons, like Kathy Griffin, and they just go to them just in case anything happens, and boy, something happened here. So she goes up and goes on a rant about how horrible Donald Trump is, and how horrible the situation is, and that Kathy Griffin's just a comedian. And that she just makes people laugh, and why is she losing her Why is she losing her gig over something that she did? Why does she have to be held to a standard? Why does she have to be held to a standard? Damn it, she's on the side of people who are right. She can do whatever she wants. It's another part of liberal media that bothers me. Just because you are part of the so-called liberal movement, just because you're part of Antifa, just because you're in Antifa doesn't mean you can throw a mask on your head and fucking break windows. Just because you don't like what Donald Trump is doing, or you think this country is in a hole, that doesn't mean you can go out and burn shit. Just because somebody's speaking at your school that you don't agree with, that doesn't mean you can destroy your school, Berkeley. What good does that do? It's like the riots in Los Angeles. Hey, let's burn down our own shit. Let's burn down the liquor store who we have no problem with because we're mad. The fuck does that do? It does nothing. It does nothing. Now, of course, Kathy Griffin's not the first person to put something terrible out against a president. A piece of media that is completely insulting. For 8 years, we had a president who could not get anything passed in Congress because he was black. That's right. Not because he had differences or not because of anything. It was because he was different. He was different. It's because they just could not possibly comprehend the idea of agreeing with a man named Barack Obama. He could have come up with something perfectly sensical. And sometimes he did. I didn't agree with everything he did, but sometimes he did. And he did a hell of a fine job in a lot of ways as president. In spite of Congress not wanting to pass a damn thing that he put out there. He was a straw man. He was the Democrats saying, hey, we're hip and we're cool. Look who we got. Look who we got. We got Barack Obama. This guy's hip. He's cool. He gets the younger generation. We're the Pepsi of a new generation, said the Democratic Party. And there were terrible things put up about Obama. Things referencing slavery and all sorts of horrible acts. And if anyone who was public like Kathy Griffin is, if anyone who had a following, or anyone who was, I don't know, famous, had done something like that about Barack Obama, you know there would be hell to pay. But all the people who did these terrible things about Barack Obama, you know, pictures of him hanging and pictures of, they weren't famous. That's what people forget. Obama had all the celebrities in his pocket. Most of them. This that Kathy Griffin did was unprecedented. And there's a person in the chat room, my buddy Joe, telling me that I'm crying about what Kathy Griffin did. You know what Kathy Griffin did, she had every right to do. But as I said before, as I said earlier in this broadcast, you do something stupid, you do something to hurt yourself, then you need to accept the consequences. That's called responsibility. And just because CNN fires her for doing this, it doesn't mean that it was Donald Trump's fault. Yeah, he did his little Twitter game, which I don't agree with, but people, it's called personal responsibility. That's what's lacking. I'm going to sound like an old man here, but it seems like the young of this generation want everything given to them. That's not how it works. That is not how this shit works.